You sure have it good, huh? Talking about work, looking at expensive clothes, eating at fancy restaurants, I'm jealous.
My husband hasn't been able to hold down a job since we got married. He seems to think everything will be fine just because I'm working. When money runs low, he turns to me, holding out his hand for cash. Until last year, my mom would scold my husband, saying, "A breadwinner doesn't keep changing jobs like that." But now that she's gone, I'm starting to wonder when my husband's attitude will change. Then, out of the blue, something shocking happens that I never saw coming. My name is Jeannie. I'm 67 and I work as a fashion designer. A fashion designer is someone who designs and tailors clothes for a living. My job includes selecting materials, thinking about designs, and creating patterns. Currently, I'm freelancing and teaching others how to make clothes. I share my experience and skill with young people. In addition, I oversee apparel brands and engage in various activities through clothing. I am blessed with 2 sons and I live with my eldest son and his wife. They moved in with me considering my busy work schedule. My daughter-in-law takes care of the household chores, so I can focus on my work without worry, and I'm grateful for that. Unfortunately, I don't have any grandchildren, but we live together happily. That day, I had planned to eat at a fancy restaurant after a clothing exhibition I was invited to by a friend. Due to my line of work, I get invited to various clothing exhibitions. It's educational, and I was excited to go because I love my job. But my husband didn't like my enthusiasm and made a sarcastic comment.
You sure have it good, huh? Talking about work, looking at expensive clothes, eating at fancy restaurants, I'm jealous.
You could go to a fancy restaurant too if you just worked. Aren't you thinking about our future? And about the expensive clothes? These were left by my mom, I replied, but my husband just pretended not to hear. My husband has never been able to keep a job for long. It's been this way since we got married. At first, he said he was standing up for his colleagues at work and so on. After the second or third time, it seemed like the problem was with him. Lately, he's been saying things like, "My back hurts" or "my leg hurts," and has been taking more time off work, eventually leading to retirement. When he runs out of money, he comes to me reaching out for more. He takes the money saying he's going to look for work, but I can see he ends up gambling it away. He has gout, so I don't want him drinking beer or any alcohol, but he always drinks.
I can't work because my back hurts and I have gout. You know that.
Well, I know a lot of people with those problems and they all work, I said, but
oh, it hurts. It hurts. Can you make me some coffee?
My carefree husband would say. Then our eldest son's wife arrived. Yes, I'll make the coffee right away. I'm very grateful that our eldest son's wife is here, but I worry about her being a bit too upbeat. Mother-in-law, you are going out today, right? Leave father-in-law to me. I'll make sure he doesn't drink too much. Sorry for always leaving you with the housework and looking after my husband. I'll buy you a souvenir on my way back. Don't worry about it at all. Our eldest son's wife always speaks in a high tone, and I didn't want to hear that voice first thing in the morning. But I had to leave. On my way to the nearest station, I got a rare call from my second son, Tony. What's going on? A call from Tony? That's unusual, I said, to a somewhat whispered reply from Tony.
Mom, are you home now?
I'm on my way to the station for a clothing exhibition, I said, and he responded,
That's perfect. I'm at the cafe near the station. Can you come over?
Sure. I understand that time is limited. I replied and headed towards the cafe. When I entered the cafe, Tony was waving from a seat in the back. It's been a while, hasn't it? Are you doing well? I couldn't help but scrutinize Tony's appearance and complexion as his mother.
I'm doing fine. You're looking the same, Mom.
Yes, I'm fine. What's the sudden call for? I asked. Tony is my second son. When he married a woman older than him with a divorce history, he brought her home, but neither I nor my husband had a good impression on her. Since my husband opposed the marriage, Tony has been keeping his distance from our home. When I asked Tony later, he explained that his wife hadn't grown up with much family love and was shy and uncomfortable in public. She was the complete opposite of my oldest son's wife, I thought. I sometimes communicated with her over the phone or through messages. I hear from Tony too, but my husband keeps saying,
"Get a divorce already."
As a result, Tony and my husband haven't seen each other for about 2 years. That was the backdrop to Tony's sudden call, and I was shocked at what he told me next.
Mila said she saw dad and your daughter-in-law walking together.
Well, isn't it possible they went out together? Your father's unemployed again, after all.
He quit his job again? Dad?
Tony's face showed his disbelief.
If that's the case, it's even more likely that dad and my sister-in-law might have been walking together.
Tony said, adopting the pose of someone deep in thought. I mean, what's the big deal? Isn't it a case of mistaken identity?
That's the thing. They didn't look like an ordinary parent and child.
What do you mean they're not parent and child? As I tilt my head, Tony says,
Mom, you're always so slow to catch on. Dad's having an affair, that's what it is.
Tony's voice raises slightly before he quickly lowers it. No way, stop it. Someone must have mistaken him for someone else. That's just like Dad. I laugh, then announce it's time for me to head to the exhibition and leave the cafe for the station. Even after hearing Tony's story, I can't think of anything that would confirm it, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little disturbed. My husband isn't particularly dapper, nor does he fit the mold of a badass dad. Nor is he balding or fat, but still, even at the clothing exhibition, I seem to be in a daze. I was even asked by a friend, is something wrong with you? So when the exhibition ended, I asked my other friends to go ahead with the dinner at the upscale restaurant, and I decided to go back. I'm back! Silence in the house. I wonder if they're out, I think. Then my husband and daughter-in-law return, laughing happily. The moment they see me, they seem to distance themselves a little.
You? Weren't you having dinner at the upscale restaurant?
My husband asked, looking puzzled. Mother-in-law, are you feeling ill? Francesca seems to show concern, but her voice is still high-pitched. Yeah, a little. More importantly, where were the two of you when I asked? There was a brief moment when my husband and Francesca looked at each other.
No, Francesca said she's never gambled before, so I thought it would be a good learning experience. Then Francesca hit the jackpot, so we just ate at a steakhouse. My husband spoke quickly. Francesca, was it really your first time gambling? I can't believe you won like that.
It was true. Maybe the horse tickets father picked were just good, right? They both seemed to be enjoying their conversation when Francesca's husband Lex, our eldest son, returned home. Apparently, he had overheard the conversation and was angry, saying,
Dad, don't teach Francesca unnecessary things. What will you do if she becomes addicted to gambling? Seriously.
I'm sorry, we won't go again. Francesca begged forgiveness with her hands together, but Lex seemed a bit upset. No wonder Lex was serious and didn't gamble or smoke. He only drank a little alcohol, and it was still a mystery why he had married Francesca. Was it because Francesca was beautiful? Well, that didn't matter.
Here, Lex, I bought pizza for dinner. You're a boring and serious guy,
he said, handing over the pizza. Then he staggered into the house, perhaps having had a bit to drink. Lex offered to eat the pizza together, but I felt somewhat convinced by Tony's story and lost my appetite, so I declined. Lex also seemed concerned that something might be really wrong with me. A few days later, I was looking for one of Mom's keepsake garments. I noticed that there was one piece of clothing that I couldn't find. It was my favorite piece and I desperately wanted to wear it and go out, but I couldn't find it. As I searched around, my husband asked,
What are you doing? You're making a lot of noise.
I asked, Don't you know where Mom's keepsake garment like this is?
My husband said, Clothes, aren't they all the same?
And acted like he didn't know. That day, Lex, who was off from work, said,
Grandma's dress?
And helped me look for it, but in the end, we couldn't find it. Lex was raised with great affection by Mom, his grandmother. I think he must have been very lonely and sad when she passed away. He was a true grandma's boy after all. I was unsatisfied, unable to comprehend where I had put the dress, but time was short, so I decided to wear something else that day. My mom passed away last year from an illness, but she worked in fashion. My dad passed away in an accident when I was in high school. Mom managed to send me to technical college while working. With her career in fashion, she left me many dresses. She had many admirers and followers, and I'm proud of my mom, who was loved by many. Seeing her all these years, I think I also wanted to work in fashion. If possible, I wanted to pass this job on to my son's wife, but my eldest son's wife seemed uninterested. The older dresses often have more value, and they don't look out of place even today. When you look at a dress, you can tell whether it's valuable or not. The dresses my grandmother wore were very carefully made. The mass-produced clothes of today may be flashy, but they are inferior in value. I'm doing my job with pride so as not to extinguish the wonderful culture of fashion. But even before we got married, my husband showed no interest at all. Our marriage was arranged, so it felt like a blind date. It seemed my mom had seen through my husband's lazy tendencies. I used to always complain about my husband and defend him. But looking back now, I wonder if he was really the one I should have married against my mom's objections. Then one day, my husband said,
I'm going out to look for work again.
and he seemed to be leaving with a bag. I was suspicious and asked him what was in the bag. His behavior was strange, and he only answered,
It's none of your business.
So when I forcibly grabbed the bag, the dress of my mom's that I couldn't find the other day came out. I was genuinely surprised and shouted, What is this all about? What are you planning to do with this dress? He responded defiantly, saying things like,
You have plenty of dresses. It's okay to exchange one for money, isn't it?
I was so dumbfounded or frustrated that I could only sigh. Anyway, this dress is a precious keepsake of my mom's and I will not sell it, I said, taking it back. My husband looked like he wanted to say something, but I quickly put the dress away in the closet. A dress that was like a treasure to me was just something to be exchanged for money to my husband. The thought made me profoundly sad, but I must be vigilant and leave no room for carelessness. I thought I might have to change to a locked chest and switched gears, telling Lex about the situation. Lex said,
You should do that. Change it as soon as possible.
And immediately referred me to a shop that sold locked closets. As I was moving the dresses into the newly acquired locked closet, I noticed that 2 dresses were missing. I probably thought my husband had taken them again, but I knew he would deny knowing anything if I asked. So I didn't pry. Instead, I had attached a recording device to the underside of the table. I wasn't really keen on the idea, but Tony persuaded me, so I reluctantly agreed to set it up. Then, to my surprise, there were voices on there that were far beyond what I had anticipated. Right after I left for work, I heard the sound of footsteps coming down the stairs, supposedly from my eldest son's wife. Then, Father-in-law, mother-in-law have put a lock on the closet. Can't steal clothes anymore, huh?
Lex said he's going to refer someone to take care of it. Isn't Lex suspicious too?
No way, he's just serious and a mama's boy who loves his mother.
Lex is a mama's boy, huh?
The sound of their laughter was recorded. After that, there were only sounds like my daughter-in-law starting the laundry or cleaning, and then the tape ended. I didn't prepare a new tape because I didn't want to hurt myself any further. However, I began to steadily prepare for divorce, agonizing over how to talk to Lex about it. Even though I said preparing for divorce, where to start? The house was all in my name too. Then several weeks later, I was invited to another clothing exhibition and decided to go. I told my husband and Francesca that I would have dinner as well, and I left the house. Being at home only made me think unnecessary thoughts, and I thought it would be a good diversion, so I left. I believe that my recent lack of appetite was probably because of overhearing that conversation, so this time I decided to go to the upscale restaurant that I had missed last time. Still, even though it was for work, having a meal with people who understood fashion was fun, and I was enjoying the time for the first time in a while. Getting lost in conversation, and perhaps because I had had a little drink, I couldn't help but vent my frustrations. I was embarrassed to discuss family matters, but I mentioned to a friend that my husband and eldest son's wife had been acting strangely. Because I spoke in a whisper, the voices from the next room came through clearly. And those voices were unmistakably familiar. Could it be a coincidence that my husband and my eldest son's wife were in the room next door? Francesca's high-pitched voice was resonating. I thought about calling out to them, wondering if they were celebrating a gambling win again, but I overheard their conversation. The moment I heard it, I panicked and called the police. A friend nearby noticed my pale face and recorded the conversation on her cell phone. I couldn't stop trembling from what I heard, feeling as if I was about to lose control. A few minutes later, I heard the sirens of the police cars.
Who is the woman requesting protection?
I am. I managed to make my way to the entrance of the restaurant. The sirens caused a commotion inside the restaurant. Then my husband and Francesca emerged from the private room.
You? What are you doing here?
That's my line, isn't it?
Is the protection request from your husband?
No, it's my husband and this eldest son's wife. What happened, mother-in-law? I'm just here for dinner with your husband. She looked as if she had nothing to do with it. That's when my friend said I made sure to record it and played back the recording on her phone. It captured the nefarious scheming between my husband and Francesca. My husband had said he had quit his job, but in reality he was fired for embezzling company money, and he had been selling my clothes to pay the compensation. Moreover, the two of them were in a romantic relationship and they had been secretly poisoning me little by little. They were saying awful things about me and our eldest son. It was all so horrible. I just wanted to cover my ears. I became so frightened that I asked the police for protection. Even after hearing the recording, Francesca casually said, "Come on, mother-in-law, it's obviously a joke," and laughed. At that moment, I felt like I saw a hidden side of Francesca.
You shouldn't bother the police with a family squabble, my husband added.
With the recording alone, the police were scratching their heads when our eldest son, Lex, arrived. After I left the room and called the police, I had also contacted Lex and our second son.
Officer, please look at these pictures. I had them investigated by a detective agency,
Lex said, handing over a large envelope. Then our second son, Tony, arrived.
I helped too. Dad, what are you doing with Francesca? You're in no position to talk about my wife. Don't you think it's disgraceful?
My husband was so shocked by Tony's direct confrontation that he couldn't say a word. Even in this chaotic situation, Francesca tried to play the victim, saying things like, "I was attacked by father-in-law one day." But our eldest son had apparently sent something and had been secretly investigating. Lex wouldn't even look at Francesca. Inside the envelope were several pieces of paper with the contents of the investigation, along with photos of my husband and Francesca entering a hotel, and my husband bringing my mom's clothes to a consignment shop. Furthermore, it was revealed that Francesca had been seducing a male pharmacist at the prescription pharmacy to get my husband's medication secretly. She had been mixing that medicine into my food. I didn't want to ask what kind of medicine it was, so I decided not to. But now I'm taking medication to relieve the symptoms caused by that drug, and I'm feeling much better. This became the irrefutable evidence. A beautiful young married woman sure attracts attention. Or is there no pride in being a pharmacist? I went to school for 6 years and my parents would be in tears. That's what crossed my mind. Once the evidence was gathered, husband and Francesca were arrested by the police right away and put into a patrol car. My eldest son, second son, and I were told by the police that there was a statement, so we followed later and we apologized to the store for causing a commotion. I felt relieved, but at the same time, all my strength was gone and I was supported by my son. Husband and Francesca were not only charged with attempted murder against me and theft of my clothes, but husband was also accused of embezzlement from his previous company, so they will be in jail for a while. When they were released, I had already filed for divorce and he has no home to return to. This is truly self-inflicted. My eldest son also went through divorce procedures with Francesca. She apologized a lot, but he firmly told her that they could never start over and the divorce was finalized. It turned out that Francesca had a criminal record, having been arrested for prostitution in the past. Of course, Lex married her without knowing anything about it. Francesca had caused a lot of trouble for her relatives in this matter and her parents left money as an apology, but we accepted only half of it. I thought it would lighten the burden on Francesca's parents a bit. Lex seems quite unfazed and is talking about looking for a new girlfriend. There are many good girls among my juniors, so I'm thinking of introducing them once things settle down, but he's such a serious eldest son. My second son, who couldn't visit home until now, has been coming with his wife lately and I can tell they're worried about me. Furthermore, my second son's wife is 5 months pregnant with a baby. It's nearing the stable period of pregnancy. The thought of seeing my grandchild's face is incredibly exciting. It feels like a dream. Since my younger son's wife doesn't have her family home, I'm more and more keen on acting as her true parent. I have the room, so I'm also proposing that they move in with me. Myla, my younger son's wife, is interested in fashion, so after she gives birth, I'm secretly hoping she'll help me as my assistant in my work. I feel like I can get along well with Myla, but if my husband were to get out of prison while we are still alive, that would be a problem. Lately, I've been thinking about selling this house and living at a comfortable distance in a condominium if that were to happen. This house is filled with Mom's memories, so I intend to live here for a while longer. I may not have been blessed with my husband, but I can say I have been blessed with my sons. I'm also thankful to the friend who recorded the wicked plot of my husband and Francesca. They continue to be a support to me, and I'm planning to go on a trip soon. Also, Mom's keepsake clothes, which the police had kept as evidence, have returned from the vendor. I feel like Mom has been protecting me. From now on, I want to focus only on being happy and taking good care of myself.